Hello, my name is Amanda Johnston, and I am sharing with you today a presentation on wellness planning for counselors and school counselors. I am going to graduate in a few short weeks after a 3-year master's program in school counseling from Northwestern College, and I will finally have my professional school counselor license ready to go. I have been teaching for over 25 years. I have a bachelor's degree in special education from the University of Missouri. I've taught in public school and private schools in both Missouri and Iowa, and have discovered that there's a lot of overlap between special education and school counseling. So that's been kind of fun for me to see how some of my skills in the career that I have loved have been a really great match with school counseling in the ways that I feel like God has been leading me in recent years. So yes, it's been honestly a joy to be part of this program. And though it has had some seasons that have been hard, I'm really glad and proud of myself that I accomplished it. So um, I would say that before I even really knew what self-care was, I don't know when that phrase came into being, but it wasn't something I was familiar with until sometime in my adult life. But I feel like I was an advocate for the practices of self-care, even when I was a teenager, young adult, and definitely in my 20s and 30s when I was raising kids and all of my friends were raising kids. I would just look around me. I was always aware that people were busy and carrying burdens. And especially the years that I was raising kids, fellow moms, just overworked, doing so much for so many, and um, carrying kind of shame and guilt about all kinds of things, and so many feeling like that was never going to be enough. And so I feel like I just had an awareness about that throughout a lot of my life. And I advocated for people to give themselves permission to slow down and to honor what they need. Um, and so I didn't always have all the words, and I definitely didn't understand the depth of self-care that I understand now, having gone through my program at Northwestern. So I have a much more robust view of self-care. It's a lot more than getting a pedicure and taking a bubble bath, although those are great things. So, um, in this presentation today, I am going to share with you what wellness is, as well as my own personal wellness plan that I have updated for life after college classes are over here. Um, I also will outline my own personal areas of growth, share with you some of the risks that face counselors that can impact wellness, and the importance of wellness and having a wellness plan, as well as my resources for this presentation. So, what is wellness? We could define wellness as an integrated orientation toward optimal health and well being in which body, mind, and spirit work together to promote an individual to live life fully within self and community. So, if we kind of pare that back, we might say that wellness is the integration of all aspects of our being and our life functioning in a way that allows us to show up for ourselves and for others in a healthy way. Um, Both the American School Counseling Association and the American Counselors Association both have ethical mandates that counselors need to practice wellness in their own lives. And when we realize that we are in a season or situation where we are not well, when the wellness plan isn't working and life is lifing, sometimes we have to recognize that we're not in a position to be able to help clients. And so that mandate is in place to help us not only understand the importance of wellness, but also to protect us in seasons when maybe we need to take a step back. The purpose behind wellness and a wellness plan is that it's designed to help counselors um, guard against becoming overwhelmed by the things that our clients are experiencing and by the workload that we might have. Because those things can then, when we start to feel overwhelmed, then that can start to impair our ability to provide competent care for the people who are coming to see us so that then we can flourish when our wellness plan is doing its job to help guard us against some of those risk factors of working in mental health fields, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So first, I want to share with you my wellness plan. It's divided into 5 sections. These are the most common sections you see in most of the wellness wheels and wellness literature. They might use different topics, but they all kind of hit on the same thing. So in the physical realm, I need to focus on drinking more water. I am usually dehydrated. When I go to the doctor and have blood work or something like that, I'm almost always dehydrated. So I'm a bad water drinker. So I am working on improving that. I also am working on adding yoga to my weekly routines. As I am getting older, I know that flexibility and strength will be important, more important maybe than that has been in the past. So I feel like this is something that I need to do for my body. And so I'm starting to put some things in place for that. In the emotional realm, I would like to rediscover the habit of journaling as a means of processing my own emotions and stressful situations. Starting with just trying to get back in the habit 3 times a week. Um, I love to write, and so journaling on and off throughout my life has been valuable. I think that as I move into this season of providing professional emotional care, I think it might be important for me to lean into that a little bit more. I have started doing that more during internship than I had been. So I think that I'm starting already to develop that again. In the social realm, um, I need to focus on scheduling in my social life. So, I'm looking at things like monthly outings with girlfriends. Um, I want to create an annual tradition of taking a girls' trip with my daughter, my stepdaughters, and my daughter-in-law. I think that that would be just a really sweet memory making time. I think it would be great for all of us. So that's something that I would like to start. Spending some one-on-one time with my adult children in the summer when I'm off school. Um, one of them is married, one's in college, 2 of them work full time. Um, they don't live here. None of them live in the same town that I live in. They are all within an hour or 2, but I think that it would be good for all of us to just still have some of that one-on-one time, just to care for one another in a way that you can't do when we're all together. My husband and I are empty nesters. This was our first school year of empty nesting, so we spend a lot of time together. We go on a lot more, I guess, dates and outings and things than we ever have before. So we're together a lot, and sometimes that can become complacent. And so I want at least once a month to put some intentional effort into how we spend time together. So he and I have been talking about some ideas around that. So I've started working on that one as well. We do have 3 grandchildren, so trying to schedule out time with them, um, at least making sure that we see them once a month. They live nearby, But because we both work full time still and they're busy in their own family, it doesn't happen as naturally as I thought maybe it would. So I just want to be intentional about that time as well. Going back to Missouri and maintaining my friendships there. Currently, we usually only go like once a year. I would like to increase that to maybe twice a year to see friends there. And then my parents actually live right across the pond from us, but I don't see them nearly as often as I thought I would when they moved here. So it's my dad and my stepmom, and they're pretty quiet, not reclusive, but kind of people. And so it will require kind of intentional effort on my part to see them more often. So just really being intentional about scheduling all of those things. In the spiritual realm, I would like to join a prayer group or a Bible study this year. That's something that I haven't had in my life for quite a few years now. And I think I'm at a place in life where I'm ready for that again. And then in the cognitive realm, and I kind of lump professional into the cognitive realm. Um, I am an advocate of being a lifelong learner. And so my personality is just toward always learning and researching topics and learning about things that I didn't know about. And I like to read. So just making sure that I'm really thinking about what I might want to continue to grow my mind and my understanding about. And so kind of have a goal of reading at least one book a year that's specifically for the purpose of, broadening my understanding and challenging my thinking, those kinds of things. I also love to do all kinds of cognitive things like puzzles and word games and things like that. So um, lots of cognitive things are part of my world. It's probably why I'm a teacher. But I also think that it's going to be important to make sure that I develop that network of supervision relationships as I move into the counseling world and develop those relationships well. So, some of the strategies for meeting those goals, using a measured water bottle, using an app that I could track water intake with, using some at home yoga apps and workouts. I have learned that exercise has to be pretty convenient for me. And so um, it either has to be right after school so that I don't come home or that I can do it at home. Not a very good morning workout person. So I'm trying to figure out how to weave those opportunities into my life. We do have a yoga studio in town that offers a discount for teachers. I do know that I can be more consistent when I have other people to go with. So I've started talking to some of my friends about options as well. In the social realm, I need to use a calendar to schedule opportunities. And probably some of those things would be good to have them be a little bit routine, like the same day each month is girlfriend night, or, that annual trip with all the daughters maybe is always the same weekend of the year, some things like that. But all of that just requires like thinking ahead and planning. And that's what I need to take the time to do. In the emotional realm, that's where I want to pick up that journaling pace. So, one of my professors shared with us a journal she had designed for counselors in particular to use to help process, things from their counseling sessions and just their work. And so, I think that that could be good when I'm processing things like that. Also, just blank journals and a really good pen and a really cool journal can go a long way in self-care for me. So, those are some of the things that I'm looking at in those three areas. And then in the cognitive area, just being intentional about thinking through the topics that I might want to um, stretch myself and learn more about, and then building that network of of other counselors to be part of a supervision group. And I'm kind of hoping that I can maintain some of my relationships with my cohort and do maybe some virtual supervision groups together with each other as well. And then in the spiritual realm, one thing is I have to accept the likelihood in my own life that I cannot commit to something every week. There are just things about my life that I don't think that that's a good fit. And I think that there have been seasons in my life where I have put pressure on, well, if I can't do it every week, then I can't do it at all. And that's not true. So, looking for something that's maybe every other week or monthly, but even if it is weekly, just the grace that there's going to be weeks that I can't show up. I have a friend who is very involved in her women's prayer group at her church. So, also just broadening my mindset that it doesn't have to be part of my church. So, if I have other friends going to a place, if that is convenient, whatever, and a good fit, then I can also join in with that. I've also given some thought to starting a monthly prayer group at school for teachers, one morning a week before school. So those are some things that I'm thinking about as strategies for just all of the different areas of wellness. Um, the reality is there are going to be seasons when wellness is easier than other times. So there are going to be tough times and seasons that are just more difficult. And in those seasons, I have found in the past, and I believe that I will continue to cling to my faith. It's the one thing that I can hold on to even when things are hard. So, at a minimum, I know that I can pray. I know that I can worship. I can sit in a quiet place and listen to the heart of God. I can lean on Christian friends and maybe that prayer group or Bible study group that I can put in place. So, in tough seasons that I've been through in my life, first of all, I think that's where we recognize the faithfulness of God, is when we can look back and see where God walked with us through some of our hardest seasons. But I've also learned that perspective on those seasons and how we respond to those hard things and those seasons is huge. So I really resonate with this quote from the book we read by Rachinsky that says, our outlook on life will always be governed by our response to life. So, how we choose to respond to hard times and tough situations literally changes how we look at all the different parts of our life. So, really being intentional and filled with grace toward ourselves as we respond to the things in life can have a huge impact on our overall wellness as well. So, for me, the two areas that I need to focus on the most are the physical and the social. Those are the two hardest things for me. Like I said, I'm a terrible water drinker. I can go all day without drinking hardly anything. So, it's like really intentional for me to drink enough water every day. So, I also don't really like water, so it can be a little bit hard for me, but I'm doing better. So, I feel good about that. I also I just honestly, I could be lazy. And so, building in exercise and routines around that has been like a roller coaster in my life of times when I do it and times when I don't. So, trying to just gain consistency and grace as I navigate that. But both of those require more intentional effort on my part. And then socially, like I am by nature an introvert. I love my people and I love time with my people. And I also love time to recharge after I've been with people. So I don't need a lot of people. but I love fiercely my people. So, but I do have a tendency to just like put my head down and do my job and come home and do the things and relax a little bit and go to bed and do it again. And not even think or give time to the social realm of my life. And I can really let it fall by the wayside, which affects relationships. People who don't understand that about me can even be offended by that. Um, so the social part of life is something that takes some intentional effort on my part to schedule and plan and commit to and show up for. So there are three main components that tend to be risk factors, things that work against counselor wellness. The first of those is burnout, which we could define as this emotional depletion that is affected by like the environment we work in and the workload that we have and issues with coworkers and just that lack of fulfillment and accomplishment in work. So burnout is kind of just like how you interact with the environment and the situation of your work. And so 21 to 66% of counselors report feelings of burnout, that they're just overworked and have issues in the setting that they work in that becomes a burden and becomes a risk to wellness. The next thing is compassion fatigue. So this is kind of a negative effect after over time when we have cared for people who are struggling. Um, that can have an impact on our ability to extend compassion going forward. It's like we run out of compassion kind of after so much time. If we're not taking care of ourselves, we can end up showing up without the capacity to extend empathy and care and compassion to our clients and to the people in our personal lives. 46% of counselors have moderate levels of compassion fatigue. And then the last area is secondary trauma. So this is when we kind of relive the traumatic experiences that our clients come to talk about. And these things, if we're not taking care of ourselves well and processing well and, working with other counselors in our supervision setting, these things can actually start to reshape how we view the world, how we view humanity. It literally changes our worldview. It can have an effect on our personal identity. It can definitely impact our ability to engage empathically with clients um, as we take on kind of the burden of their traumas. So 50% of counselors are at risk of developing secondary trauma symptoms. So those risk factors are components to why we have to have a focus on wellness. We can't get around experiencing aspects of those three things. So I think it's really important, especially as Christian counselors, to recognize that bad things happen in the world. We live in a broken world. This is not how it was intended to be. I really appreciate Larry Crabb's view that, something really actually is wrong with everything here. This is not what God intended. And so this quote always reminds me also of this book that I read a couple years ago called That Sounds Fun. And the author of that book talks about how, in our core sense of being human, we know that we're missing Eden. We know that we're missing what was supposed to be this perfect life with the Lord. And so I just think that those are really important realities to accept. And that, until Jesus returns, this is the world we function in, and there really are things wrong here. And that's where we show up for ourselves and with clients. But as Christians, we know that God's heart toward us is good and that he redeems all things for the good of people who love him and are abiding in his purpose. And so there's some assurance in that, that God knows that we're living in this broken world, and yet he loves us enough to work those things out. So we can trust that God has the outcomes in hand. It's not our responsibility to fix people. Um, it's it's our job to answer the call, to show up and meet our clients where they are, just in this moment, and just let God use us with the people who walk through our door, and then learning to let go and let God take it from there. Um, there's just only so much we can do. And so it's creating wellness so that we're not consumed by our clients' stories. We are, after all, human beings, not human doings. And so when we pressure ourselves for the doing and the doing and the doing and the outcomes, and we take on this responsibility, we really take away from what God can do. And so we do need boundaries in place to achieve balance and to flourish in this life. As Christians, we want to do more than just survive. Like, we want to thrive, we want to flourish, because that's God's heart for us. So I think that those thoughts are really the backbone of why wellness really matters for ourselves and for our clients. So I want to end today with this quote that I think sums up what we're after as counselors in the area of wellness. So, counselors who understand self care practices are able to have healthier habits, including effective time management, having a positive outlook, viewing their own skills and strengths from a healthy perspective, and utilizing support resources that lead to burnout prevention and resilience. So I hope that in this time that we've spent together, that you have heard some things that maybe give you some ideas, some things that maybe encourage you to know that even while you're learning to be a counselor, now is a great time to start doing this thinking and putting these things in place for yourselves and for the students and people that you will serve. These are my resources if you want to look for more information. Thank you.